Okay, here we are building the 5.0 DC kit with TLR driver Joe Ellis. Here's some of the goodies he's got here. This would be the mod car kit. Aluminum bell cranks for just durability or peace of mind. But yeah, that's what comes in the box for what you get there. And here we go. Alright, rolling. Unboxing the diff here. We're gonna do the diff here.
I usually just set up everything, make it kind of nice and neat.
Right.
Probably doesn't really matter, but it kind of matters to me. I like to have everything nice and neat while I'm doing it.
Right.
Just take some, make that wet, and I don't lose my diff balls.
Okay.
I wash them in simple green anyway. And it just keeps everything from rolling around a little bit.
Right. That's pretty cool. I never thought of that, Joe.
Yeah. So I usually take everything out of the bag first, and then kind of put everything together as it's going to be put together.
Is this the same diff as the 4.0?
I believe they updated the spring.
Okay.
From what I heard from Frank, that was a new part of it. And I think that might be the only thing. Oh no, I'm sorry. They also made the diameter of the bolt a little bigger because every once in a while you'd have a little trouble with the head breaking off of it.
Okay.
So that's big. That's different, and the spring is supposedly different. It does look a little different than the last one. So when I start, just from the manufacturing process of all of these parts, they've got some just residue from building, or from machining and all that.
Right.
And I like to start really clean when I start. So I'll just take some simple green and I'll wipe all this stuff off, especially where, you know, I mean, you can see just from wiping that off, it's got like a brown, some kind of oil or something was on it. So I try and make everything as clean as I can before I start. So just makes the diff happy.
Right.
I mean, you wouldn't think a brand new part would have that much on it, but there's quite a bit in there.
Like the anti-rust or whatever stuff.
Yeah, something like that probably. Okay. And I also do the same to the rings. The rings come with it kind of seems like it might be diff lube, but I usually just wipe them off. It's probably fine to use them the way they were, but I like to clean them up a little bit, just to make sure there's nothing stuck to it, you know.
Right.
Any kind of dirt or anything. And I'll take the diff balls and I'll roll them around in that simple green a little bit.
Right.
And then I'll roll them onto a dry spot. Kind of dry them off a little bit.
Right.
Always clean towel, and make sure I always wash my hands before I build the diff, especially if I'm at the track.
Okay.
You wouldn't believe, just from your hands you can get enough grit and make the diff feel horrible when you build it. So I'll take some the grease, that whatever grease you're going to use on those balls. Just coat them now. Excuse me. And so if you do happen to hit the table or the towel,
Right. They're not gonna roll.
right. So just kind of, they'll be stuck to the towel. Save yourself a little trouble.
Yeah.
Wash all the rings off for the thrust bearing. Make sure they're clean and dry. Okay. So, you know, I've built a lot of these, so I kind of can do the diff without the instruction book. And as I was saying before, I always use the instruction book on a new kit.
Right.
But that's kind of preference. So I'll take my diff screw, I put it on the wrench. I like to put it on the wrench because it just holds it there for you.
Right.
And then I'll take some of the black grease that's going to go on the thrust bearing, and I put it around the screw, on the washer, whatever you want to call it. And then I'll take these balls and I'll put them around the screw. Try to.
Okay.
I usually put a little more grease on there. I don't think you could put too much grease here, and I'll show you why in a minute.
Okay.
I like to load it up and
The thrust balls.
on the thrust balls. Yeah.
Okay.
Got to be careful though, because with all that grease, you can lose a thrust ball and not realize it. So I let it squish out, and then I just take my finger. I don't know if you could see that or not.
Yep.
I just take my finger and I just push the grease and the balls into the washer. So I try not to wipe too much of it off. You can see they're kind of sticking out there. And I always make sure that I didn't have one stuck to my finger or just lost in the process kind of thing.
Right.
So okay. So then, always follow the instructions. I just know from doing this for so long that the bolt goes in this half with the bearing here.
Right.
So I usually stick the bearing in, stick the bolt in, and you watch. Make sure none of the balls are sticking out of the side when you put it together. So I just do that there. Okay. So that's kind of an assembly right there. You always take a little of the diff lube and you put it on here. And I put too much, I know. I do it on purpose. And then you take your ring and you put it, you kind of give it a little turn, and you can feel it kind of seat on there.
Right.
And the grease helps everything stay together. Okay. And then I wipe the excess off. Okay, so that half's ready to go. Okay. Now, we can take, I'll usually build the other half since I'm doing that, and I've got grease on my finger anyway, so I will just stick all that together. And do the same thing on the other spring. Wipe any excess off. I don't know why I wipe the excess off. I don't know. I think my OCD makes me keep everything neat and clean as I'm building it.
Right.
Just what I do, and it works for me. So, it may not work for everybody. So then I'll take the diff balls that I had a little lube on them before, and I'll take and I'll put them in my palm. And don't do this unless your hands are clean. Okay. Because just the little bit of dirt you have on your hands will make this feel horrible. Okay.
Okay.
So I will wipe them around, and I use this little flathead screwdriver I've got, and I make sure it's clean, and then I'll take the balls, and these go in one side of this gear. I don't know if there's a way to tell. I never really looked. But they'll go in one side and not in the other. So I picked the wrong side. So I'll flip that over. And they go in without having to press them in this way. The other way, you have to kind of snap them in.
Right. And they fall out the back.
Yeah, they could fall out the back. So I'll just take and put all the... Okay, there's all the balls in there. Now I'll take a little bit of this lube. I don't get crazy here because it's going to kind of squeeze out, but I'll put a little bit more right there and a little bit more on the other side.
Like, have you ever heard drivers say, like, you can't use too much diff grease?
I think you can.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's going to squeeze out anyway.
Right.
But, so I think, you're just kind of...
wasting.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I'll put the gear and the bearing on that half. And then this half's still on the wrench. And I'll just put it together like that. And let it thread in. Now, never tighten that all the way down. Like I'm feeling it, and I can feel it touch the spring, and just a little bit of pressure on there.
Right.
When you build a new diff, and the rings are new, and you haven't broken that diff in yet, you can dent the rings pretty easily by over tightening that. And that's when you feel, and if the diff feels crunchy, you're like, I just built a brand new diff and it feels crunchy. That's because you put 14 dents in the rings.
Okay.
And so I never tighten it at this point. I mean, it's tight enough that it's doing, it's acting like a diff.
Right.
But it would slip if I put it in the car like that.
Right.
I only tightened it a little bit at this point. So that's where I leave my diff. I don't tighten that yet. When it's in the car, I'll break it in and get it to where I want to run it.
Okay.
And I mean, that's obviously it's loose right now, but that's kind of. I'll clean some of this out because I don't want to sling this heavy diff lube into the gears. I mean, it's probably fine that it's in there, but I use a different kind of oil in my gears. And I really don't want that in there. So if I get any excess that's squeezed out, I'll just take and clean it out a little bit.